guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over an email that was sent from a subscriber. That's from a guy. He is 65, he is a husband and father, and he shares his story about events that happened like 20 years ago when his wife tearfully confessed to what was the beginning of an affair. And you're going to see how this guy handles things by definitely scaring the bejesus not just out of her, but also the guy that she was talking to. And I thought we'd go over here, guys, just to show you, number one, as I say all the time, as the old saying goes, trust but verify. You're going to do relationships. Obviously, you got to trust until there's no reason to trust again. And you always got to pay attention and verify. Pay attention to red flags, etc., etc. And sadly, how so many times your girlfriend, your wife, fiance could be acting like a perfect angel and doing all things right, and find out there's a reason she's doing all things right, because she's covering things up. And how you got to handle things accordingly as you see fit. And in this situation here, it is definitely amusing how he handles the affair partner. So a good one for today, definitely entertaining one. So it starts off, says here, hello SSM. I have to say I'm addicted to your channel. Well, I appreciate that, sir. I got a mortgage to pay. Hearing what happens in relationships and how these guys handle it makes me realize that us guys have to stick together and help each other through the toughest of times. Well, the women stick together, so we got to stick together. I'm 65 years old and have had quite the few relationship woes. I'm going to relate the one that happened in the shortest time frame. My name is Andy and my wife's Beth. Not our real names, of course. A little background here. I'm 10 years older than Beth, and we married when I was 35 and she was 25. I just gotten out of a 10-year marriage and was single for about a year. Smack! You got married after being divorced only a year? What the hell's the rush? You know, that only communicates to her, to Beth, a 25-year-old, this guy really likes me. Therefore, I can pull bullshit. There's no rush. I have to admit, I like being married. Well, clearly. I was just married to the wrong person. I was married too young at 23 and 21, and don't worry, I'm smacking myself. Well, good. You know how it is with good men. No one can stand to see him single, so I'm getting fixed up all the time. My oldest nephew, Dane, not his real name again, had just enrolled in nursing school and wanted to fix me up with some of his older nursing students. You marry a nurse, huh? This story is about a 25-year-old nurse he weren't married to too long. Well, actually, no. This is after you've been married 10 years. Dude, the stereotypes. My nephew invited me out a few times to parade me around to see who might be interested. I'm not a big guy, about 5'6", 150, but pretty fit and athletic. I play tennis and I cycle. My positives are a stable, profitable business and a paid-for home. My negative is I work, and I work a lot. Well, that's what happens when you have your own business. You're always working. And even if you're not working and you're physically with your family, you're thinking about business. And things go wrong, the buck stops with you. That's how it is. But you could bring home a nice paycheck, provide a nice life, but, well, they whine because you're not getting enough attention from you then. However, I would still find time to be with loved ones and social outings. Traveling had to be planned intricately very far in advance. My nephew tried to hook me up with one particular gal. Let us call her Mandy. Beth was younger and just had gotten dumped by her ex, claiming that they were getting too close, whatever that means. She had previously met me at a study group hosted by my nephew. We talked briefly, and she couldn't believe that I was Dane's uncle because I looked so young. I was 32 at the time and looked younger than Dane. Beth was 22. Okay, so it was one of those deals where obviously it sounds like maybe you were the younger brother and the older sister, older brother had kids young, and therefore there wasn't a huge difference in age between you and your nephew. That happens. Beth was 22. Beth asked Mandy what she thought of me, and Mandy said Dane was trying to set her up with me. Beth told Mandy to decline it. I was hers. Like I said, I like being married. Fast forward 11 years, we have 2 girls, my business is better than ever, and my wife had a nursing degree but is working sporadically. Mostly a stay-at-home mom. Our girls are beautiful, smart, and curious. The oldest is 8 and the youngest is 4, both in private schools. Since I got up early to go to work, I usually dropped them off at school. Now on to the real story. Okay, he was just setting the stage. We all knew where he was. This is his second marriage. Obviously doesn't want things to go haywire. Has 2 daughters. Okay. and he works all the time. Looking back, I should have seen the red flags. That's what everybody says. Hindsight's 2020. Her being overly nice to me, making sure to call me in the event I come home during the day, supposedly so she could be ready for me. Saying she was busy and I could pick up the kids from school, the house not tidy when I came home. Once, when I came home, she called me upstairs to show me how wet she was. Of course, we had sex. The younger one was downstairs calling for me, so I finished and got her a toy so she could finish. All this for a period of about 3 months. Okay, so during 3 months, all this extra nice behavior was going on. I came home from work one evening and my wife is sitting on the sofa, eyes red from crying. She looked like she'd been crying for a while. She would cry often because of depression. She hadn't, however, cried in a while. She was working with a counselor and seemed to be helping. I ran to her and immediately held her. I asked her if she wanted to talk. She said she had something to tell me. So the skeptic in me, and the cynic, because that's who I am at this point in my life, is literally picturing your car pulling up in the driveway and her like, uh-oh, here we go. Cut up some onions, whip up the tears. Oh! And you come in. I have something to tell you. Knowing darn well her goose is cooked and she's got to tell you before you find something out. My mind was all over the place. She asked me if I remembered her calling the wrong phone number a couple of times. She thought she was calling a friend who had changed her number. I remembered a man answering the phone. It was a direct connect phone we used in the early 2000s, so I heard him answer. I told her to delete the wrong number because she would continue to make that same mistake. She said she would, but evidently didn't. She said she ended up calling him by mistake a few more times. That their exchanges got longer and a little funnier after each phone call. Soon they were talking all day. They even exchanged home phone numbers. What the fuck? She's claiming that she got wrong numbers and it was a guy at the end of the line and she liked the way he sounded and they started talking more and more, becoming phone call pen pals. Are you freaking kidding me here? This is her story, of course. I sat there stunned for what seemed like to be a lifetime. She continued to cry. Well, no shit, to make you feel bad, so that you would minimize repercussions. That's how it works. They learn this shit when they're little girls with the crap with their father. Your own daughters probably pull crap like this. I asked her if they were fucking. She swore they never met in person. Like you'd believe her at this point. Ah! So I asked her if they talked about meeting up. She said they had. That's when I realized she had to stop. Supposedly, he agreed. So now I pressed her for more information, painting a picture in my mind. Her quickly grabbing the phone after I left with the kids, spending all day on her emotional relationship with this man, how much they did tell each other. So I know what you're all thinking. Duh, nurse. There's a stereotype here. Well, we all know it. Stay-at-home mom. What the fuck she do? Kids are at school. How is she working sporadically when the kids are like 8 and 4? Well, okay, the 4-year-old preschool, so probably isn't in preschool all the time, but probably should. So at this point, she should be going back to work. Nothing but time on her hands. It says here, now I pressed her for more information, blah, blah, blah. She told me that she said he told her his wife didn't understand him. I asked, what did you tell him about me? I don't understand you? She said she had told him only positive things. I gave her a vicious look and headed for the door. I went to my office to retrieve the phone bill. I never looked at it because it was paid through the auto draft and there were many phones on that bill. Luckily, it was a detailed billing. Using the timeline she provided, I grabbed the last 4 months. There were over 4,000 direct connect minutes over that time period, not counting phone calls to my or his home. 4,000 direct connect minutes. I went home and confronted her on this. I was pissed off beyond belief. I asked her if he knew where we live, and did she know where he lives? She said they knew each other's neighborhood, but not exact addresses. Like you can believe anything she fucking says. I screamed to her at the top of my lungs for putting herself and our family in danger. You have it right. She said she didn't think we were. My wife has, in the past, made poor decisions with relationships and the like. She's the kind of person that would pick up a hitchhiker and think nothing of it. So she's a dumbass. Doesn't excuse her actions. I told her not to lie to me, and if I found out that she was, it would be over. Well, in my opinion, it should be over, but let me finish the story. I never had an emotional relationship with a woman that I wasn't exclusive with. I expected the same from her. You're damn right. I asked more questions until I was satisfied. She knows I don't like being wronged. She knew it was going to be bad for us until I resolved this mess myself. She would have a hard time making things right with me, but I had someone else to get right with, and I told her so. She got a horrified look on her face, eyes wide, and asked me to please not retaliate. Tough shit, sweetheart. You put us in this situation. Were you thinking about our marriage? Were you thinking about our home? Were you thinking about our daughters during this whole little need for attention and validation? What, I'm not home enough? You like this house? You like this lifestyle that I provide? That requires me being out and running my business. That she was the one to blame. I stared at her and said that she should be happy that I thought someone else should also bear this blame. She asked me what I was going to do. I told her I didn't know yet and that I'm not going to tell her. Well, this uncertainty is driving her crazy. My kids were at their mother's house. So I went to get them. When we got home, I acted like nothing had happened. The next day, my wife didn't say a word, got up, and brought the kids to school. I called home and told her I was changing all the phone numbers and email addresses. She asked me again, what was I going to do? I told her, don't worry about it. When I decided what happened, she knew what I meant. So now you're leaving her in a stage of uncertainty, never knowing what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, and all that. And it's amazing what that does. Absolutely amazing. I told my mom to go to my house and spend the day. I told her my wife wasn't feeling well and to keep an eye on her, right at my mother's alley. At work, I got all my business done, and attended to my main objective of the day. I couldn't let this guy think he got off scot-free. My manager was responsible for the company's communications. He had gotten us a good deal with our cellular company because a niece of his worked there. I asked him if he thought he could help me identify a subscriber. He called his niece and said she could help if I had the phone number. Probably a little illegal, but after I explained the situation, she was glad to help. Well, that's great. And by the way, I want to know, and I'm sure you're all thinking this, why your wife suddenly chose that moment to tell you. Really? Was it a guilty conscience? Did suddenly she realize this is going too far and I need to tell my husband and confess? That'd been great and all. Doesn't excuse her actions. Or did he break up with her? Did he dump her? Who knows? And was this just an emotional affair or was she actually sleeping with him? These are all very warranted questions. But anyhow, so I looked through the bills and got both the cell and direct connect numbers. She said she'd call him and ask for if his service was acceptable, also whose account it was, if not his. Later in the day, she called me. It so happens that this guy's name is John, his real name, and the phone belongs to a state government agency, and its headquarters are in an adjacent city. She also said that this guy was flirting with her on the phone. At least he was consistent. Of course he was. So this guy works for the fucking government. At least it's the state, not federal. That day before I went home, I got the address and phone number of his office. The next day I called a friend that we'd been known to have each other's back. I gave him the short version of what happened next, and I needed some help finding this guy. As expected, he never lets me down. As a good bro should. Now, I didn't need physical help. It was sure it wouldn't get to that. I needed to make sure that he'd see me that day. We drove to the building and parked. We went inside and checked what floor his office was on. We both got into the elevator and went up. When we got to his office, I told him to stay outside in case he was milling around. His shirt should bear his name. I've seen people in this bureau before, and they all had their names emblazoned on their shirts. I went to the reception desk and asked if I could speak to John. The woman behind the desk asked if I had an appointment. I said no, but he'd see me anyway. She said he stepped out for a moment, but would I be able to wait? And I said yes. Perfect, I thought. I didn't know if he knew me or what I looked like, but my buddy was outside waiting and would make sure that he would have a moment with me. After a while, I saw a man coming around the corner and heading to the office door. He looked at my friend and exchanged glances. After he walked by, my friend nodded to me. John walked to the door, and the receptionist gestured to me and said that I was waiting for him. I stood up and measured him. About 5'8" or 5'9", soft in the middle, younger than me, but balding, full beard, trimmed close. John, I asked. He said yes, and asked if we knew each other and what could he do for me. Well, you're about to know who this is. I chuckled a bit, reveling how easy it was to find him. I said, "You know of me, but now I know you." He said, "Excuse me?" I questioned, "What did you think was going to happen? That I let you two get away unscathed?" And at that moment, then he realized who you are. The shock of realization darted across his face. He immediately said, "It was purely innocent. Nothing happened and nothing was going to happen." I was about to end it when she did. 4,000 minutes, or whatever the hell it was. It was either 4,000 minutes they were talking, or there were 4,000 minutes used during that 4-month period, and a big chunk of that they were talking. I don't know what, but they talked a lot. And he says that she ended it. Well, I hope she ended it. That's good to hear at least, but still. I asked if he understood how easy it was to find him, and how easy it would be to inform his wife of his daily routine. Asshole. He pleaded with me not to. I told him it would depend on how well my wife made it up to me, and that would be at my discretion. There you go. Leave this guy in fear that any day you could show up and provide all this information to his wife, which you should have, I might add. I left him a crying, sniveling wreck. I find when somebody doesn't know what to expect, it has a profound effect on their psyche. I actually believe that this weasel was sniveling and whining and crying and begging that you wouldn't tell his wife. You know, it's like bullies. Bullies deep down are all cowards, and guys like this are also just fucking weak bitches too. Probably do this stuff to just make them feel better about themselves because they have low self-esteem. When I got home, my wife was a complete angel. Oh, I'm sure she was. I'm sure you had nicely made sandwiches every day the rest of your life, cut into triangles and everything. The best BJs ever. The best behavior. Silence when you're watching the playoffs. You get the point. I told her to stop. I didn't need to be patronized. I told her I needed her loyalty. If she was bored, to tell me. I would and have done anything she wanted. I told her that from this point forward, I would not be able to tell if she was being sincere. But from now on, I will trust but verify. Thanks, SSM, for that advice. And that is the brief end of the story. I know you guys are like, what the fuck? They stayed married? Well, apparently they did. Now, I would have handled things differently in that department, but then again, I don't know this guy. I don't know his life. I don't know his situation. It was 20 years ago. You know, who knows? I'm thinking he gave her a second chance on the basis that she confessed to him and he had reason to believe that nothing physical happened, that she felt really bad. I don't know. I'm going to assume if he's still with her, that she obviously was in her best behavior afterwards, but he learned a lesson about the trust but verify thing. But who knows? But anyhow, very entertaining. I like that he scared the crap out of that guy because he deserved to have the crap scared out of him. And you know what? Obviously, I don't know what happened afterwards. I would have told his wife, quite frankly. That guy deserved it. He's a fucking weasel. And of course, he works for the government. I think I can touch that one there. But anyway, guys, there you go. So you always trust but verify. Always pay attention to red flags. And in my opinion, I would have been out of there. But he's been married twice. Probably didn't want to get divorced. Little kids. It's not how I would have handled it. But regardless, I'm assuming that he's still with her. She's learned her lesson and has had a good marriage since. Or she's been a master at covering her tracks. Who knows? So anyway, guys, be prepared to, you relationship guys, to lay down the law. Lay down the law, trust but verify, all that. There you go. All right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And, guys, you got a good story to share, definitely email me, strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. And whether it's a story about something that happened recently or 20 years ago, I don't care. If it's a good story, just send it my way. But please make it easy for me to read. A lot of good stories I've skipped because I can't read it. It's all one giant paragraph for 10 pages, no punctuation, nothing. I don't have time to deal with that shit. Make it easy for me to read. And I'll definitely cover it if it works. And this goes for questions or anything else you got. And be sure to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.